is a 2004 Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution VIII, and it's a truly special car. This one is particularly special because it's completely unmodified original with less than 1,000 miles from new, but the Evo VIII in general is special because it was a rally-bred, exciting sports sedan and the first version of the Lancer Evolution ever sold in the United States. Today, I'm going to review this Evo VIII and show you all of its quirks and features. Before I get started, big news, this Evo VIII is currently for sale and it's being auctioned live on Cars and Bids. This is an incredibly special one. No modifications, totally original, and under 1,000 miles. This is probably the nicest Evo VIII left anywhere, and you can get it on Cars and Bids. So, once you finish watching this video, click the link in the description below to visit the live auction for this Evo VIII, where you can bid on it and buy it only on Cars and Bids.
A quick message from our partner, Tire Rack. Tire shopping is one of those things most of us don't think about until we have to. And when you do, you want to feel confident you're picking the right set. That's where Tire Rack shines. You punch in your year, make, and model, like I do for my cars, and you get every tire that actually fits side by side. And this is the part I really like. You can filter by what matters to you. Wet traction, tread life, comfort, noise, price. And there are real customer reviews, real specs, and Tire Rack's own test results, not some random listicle from 2014. And a few things worth knowing. Every tire purchase comes with 2 years of free road hazard protection. Nails, potholes, rocks, all covered. Shipping is free and most of the country gets it next day. And you've got options on install. Ship free to a recommended installer, ship free to your house, or in some areas, they'll come to you with mobile installation. It's tire buying done right. Go to TireRack.com to shop tires. Link is pinned in the comments and down in the description. All right, back to the car.
All right, time for the quirks and features of the Lancer Evolution VIII, starting with a little basics. So, the Lancer Evolution was the high-performance, well, this is the road version of Mitsubishi's famous Lancer Evolution rally car. And the very first Lancer Evo, as it's called, came out back in 1992, the Evo I. And over the years, the Evo grew in size and power, in performance, and in success. The Evo's legend kind of grew along with the car. It was fast, it was fun, it appeared in video games. People wanted the Evo with each successful generation. This model was the Evo VIII, officially the Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution VIII. It came out in 2003, and most importantly, it was the very first Evo that was ever sold in the United States. Previous to this, we had just dreamed of the Evo in Gran Turismo and other video games, and it finally showed up here. Now, Mitsubishi didn't bring the Evo before because they were a little bit anxious after sports car sales in the 90s had not been so strong. They kind of tailed off. They didn't really know if Americans would buy this sporty sedan. But Subaru brought the Impreza WRX, this car's big competitor, in 2002, and they said they were going to bring the high-performance STI later. And Mitsubishi said, we got to get in on that game, and so, for the 2003 model year, the Evo was finally unleashed in North America. Now, I was 15 years old when the Evo came to the States, and I remember it was a huge deal. I was so excited about this car, so pumped for it to finally appear in the US market after I played video games driving Evos for years. And a big part of my excitement was the powertrain. Like other Evos, this one uses the 4G63. That's a 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder, and in this car it made about 270 horsepower, and it made this car fast. The Evo is all-wheel drive, owing to its rally car roots, and combined turbocharged power with 4-wheel drive power delivery, 0 to 60 was in the mid 4-second range, which was really quick for a Japanese sports sedan in the early 2000s. Honestly, it's still pretty quick today. Evo fans, though, will probably be most excited to see this engine bay like this, so clean and and so untouched. There is a huge modifying tuner culture around the Evo, but also this powertrain in general, since it was used in other cars too. And a lot of people make a lot of modifications to these cars. It's very rare to see one so clean, so unchanged, and I bet there's a lot of really big Evo enthusiasts out there who have never seen an engine bay quite like this, like it would have been back when the car was delivered new, now coming up on 25 years ago. But beyond the powertrain, the engine and the all-wheel drive system, the Evo had many more performance upgrades over the standard Lancer economy car on which it was based. And a lot of these upgrades came from notable manufacturers of performance parts, and Mitsubishi wasn't shy about putting their logos on the parts they made. So you can see the wheels advertised for Enkei, the Japanese wheel manufacturer. All of the wheels have their logo and branding on them, and also a Mitsubishi center cap. The brakes say Brembo on them. They were Brembo brakes, and so they proudly advertise that fact. The seats are from Recaro, and so they have Recaro's logo right in there, making it known exactly what they are and who created them. And the steering wheel is from Momo, and Mitsubishi had Momo put a big Momo logo on there. All of this stuff stems from kind of Japanese tuner culture, where a lot of tuners would make upgrades like this to their cars anyway and proudly leave on the brands. I guess Mitsubishi just figured, this is a tuner car, we're going to tune it from the factory and put all this cool stuff on there. And so there's a lot of other brands. But there's a lot of other upgrades too beyond that. The flared fenders is a big one. Compared to the standard narrow body Lancer, the Evo had these big flared fenders, looked muscular and cool like rally cars often do. And of course, there was the massive wing. The Evo's become known for this big rear wing on the back. The chief rival, the Subaru Impreza WRX STI, also had a big rear wing. Both of these cars competing directly with each other had to have that performance-y wing. Also in the back, I absolutely love the rear wiper. In North America, and basically globally, sedans, four-door sedans, don't have rear wipers. But in Japan, it's pretty common for four-door sedans, cars with trunks, to have rear wipers. And you can tell a car is pretty JDM-y when it has a rear wiper and a trunk. It is very unusual to see outside of the Japanese world. Also very Japanese is the taillights, which you can see have clear lenses and then lights inside in individual housings. This was a common style in this era. The tuner kids called it Altezza taillights after the Toyota Altezza, which sort of popularized the look. And the Evo has them from the factory because of course it did. Beyond stuff in the rear and the flared fenders though, there's more up front, where the front end is basically completely restyled compared to a regular Lancer. You have a much larger and more aggressive lower opening with the intercooler down there to support the turbocharged engine, and obviously you have some hood vents for heat dissipation, better cooling. Unique to the Evo, the standard Lancer models didn't get that. Now, and next we move inside the Evo VIII, where there's a lot to say, but first, it's hard not to be impressed with the unbelievably well-preserved, pristine condition of this interior. It is absolutely factory perfect in an unbelievable way. We've had a lot of crazy low-mileage cars come through the Cars and Bids office that we've sold, but this is the most new-smelling old car I've ever been inside. It truly feels like I just walked into the Mitsubishi dealer in 2005, which, by the way, was a depressing place to be, except for this car. And I'm sitting here on the showroom. It is incredible to see an Evo interior preserved quite like this. So well preserved, in fact, that you even have this little sticker on the driver's door panel telling you about the tires and how they perform better than regular tires. I don't know why that's there. You see it sometimes on some JDM cars, and I guess they decided to put it on this one too. I'm sure most Evo owners ripped it off immediately, but here it stays from the factory. factory. Also pretty cool to see is this cluster of gauges down here below the climate controls. You can see 3 different Mitsubishi gauges, a voltmeter, temperature sensor, and a turbo boost gauge. These were standard on the high-performance Evo MR model, but they were dealer accessories that could be installed in other Evos as well. And you'll notice they are perfectly sized to fit a single DIN stereo slot, which is technically what this is. And if you wanted to replace your stereo with gauges and lose some weight, you could do that too. These gauges are not commonly seen in Evos anymore. A lot of people went with different gauges mounted in different places, sometimes digital, but these were a factory or dealer accessory that you could get from Mitsubishi at the time, and it's pretty cool to see them installed right here in this car. But looking around this interior, you're probably wondering why? How the hell did this car happen so perfectly preserved? And I don't really know. Looking at the Carfax, it was sold new at a Mitsubishi dealer in Connecticut and barely driven by the first owner. A couple hundred miles right away and then virtually none after that. The second and current owner bought it about 12 years ago, and he too has resisted the temptation to drive or modify this car in an amazing way that most other Evo owners definitely did not resist. And so this is like the museum piece Evo VIII, maybe one of the last ones remaining in this condition. But anyway, on to the rest of the interior quirks and features, and let's start with the transmission. All Evo VIII models had a manual transmission. There was no automatic available, but the majority got a 5-speed manual, and that includes this car. The only way you could get a 6-speed manual was if you got the high-performance Evo MR, which was more focused, more, well, high performance, compared to this, the Evo GSR, which had more luxury accoutrement. It was a bit more of a touring Evo compared to the stripped out, focused MR. The MR models sell for more these days, but they're a lot less common. Most Evos were like this. Plus, all Evo models shared the most important things, including the powertrain, which didn't change between standard models like this one and the MR. And this car got some pretty cool tricks. I showed you a bunch already, but another one is this little switch in the center console, which is an intercooler sprayer. You can press down on it, manual, and then you can manually spray the intercooler with water in order to cool it off, because cool air going into an engine, especially turbocharged engine, is going to be denser. It's going to give you more power, and so this was a way to cool off the intercooler and the air coming into the powertrain in order to get a little bit more power, an intercooler sprayer. Another interesting component of this car is the gauge cluster, which you can see has 5 important distinct gauges. There's the tachometer, the speedometer, the fuel gauge, the temperature gauge, and then a gauge that simply says Lancer. That's your 5th gauge, the Lancer gauge. Although, interestingly, this gauge's purpose seems to be that it includes warning lights for no seatbelt or door open. And so it's there saying Lancer, but also giving those warning lights if you need. Now, one other interesting thing, kind of hidden below the steering wheel in the driver footwell area, this panel opens up, and it's actually a little storage compartment. So you can put tiny stuff in there if you want to hide it away from other people. Speaking of hidden things in this car, by the way, the badging. There is no Evolution badging anywhere in this interior, with the exception of the floor mats, which of course are absolutely pristine and perfect in this car. But the floor mats obviously are easily removable, and once you take those out, that's it. There is no Evo badging anywhere. You have that gauge that says Lancer, but it doesn't say Evo, and because the seats say Recaro instead of Lancer or Mitsubishi, there is no Evo badging. You wouldn't necessarily know how special this car is that you're driving until you really push it. And by the way, speaking of branding, there is one other company's logo in here, and that would be Infinity, the makers of the sound system. You can see the factory head unit still in this car. Pretty cool to see. Infinity up at the top, Mitsubishi Motors down at the bottom, showing that this head unit was built specifically for Mitsubishi and couldn't possibly be tailored to the desires of any other car. Basically, all Evo owners have ripped out that sound system and accompanying equipment, so it's cool to see that factory factory head unit still in its place. And next up, we move on to the back seat in the Evo VIII, which obviously isn't very big. Since this is based on a Lancer compact car, it's not a big back seat to begin with, but then you add in these hardback Recaro sport seats and you have even less space back here with the sort of hard plastic, kind of stealing some knee room. Nonetheless, it's not really the point of this car, a very comfortable rear seat experience, but nonetheless, you have rear seats. There is some practicality back here, even if it's pretty basic. Thankfully, it is leather back here though, which is a nice luxury feature. I told you this was the touring Evo model, and there is also an ashtray in between the front seats and the back for rear passengers, and there's even a fold-down armrest. And when you fold it down, there's a little panel in here that opens up for cup holders. This is probably the very first time anyone has ever opened the cup holder rear panel in this car. It looks totally untouched, and with 1,000 miles and virtually no wear in the back seats, I really truly bet I'm the first. And finally, we move on to the trunk, the cargo area in the Evo VIII. On the trunk lid, you can still see the dealer badge for Schaller, which was the Mitsubishi dealership in Connecticut that sold this car new. Still proudly rocking that. I checked, by the way, Schaller's still in business, although they've moved on from Mitsubishi to brands that will actually make money, such as Honda and Subaru. Anyway, opening up the trunk, there's no button on the fob. There's only lock or unlock. You don't have a trunk button. So you got to stick the key in, twist it, open it up, and then you discover a couple of interesting quirks. For one thing, the trunk itself, fairly standard size for a car like this, nothing too unusual, though you do have a subwoofer taking up a pretty decent amount of space back here. This is, of course, the factory Infinity subwoofer that comes with the Infinity sound system, the head unit I showed you before. More interesting, though, is off to the side, this little panel opens up to reveal a washer fluid container. Why is there washer fluid in the trunk? Well, because this car has a rear wiper, and thus it has a rear washer, and so this is where your rear wiper washer fluid goes. You do not see that reservoir in the trunks of many cars. But anyway, those are your Evo VIII quirks and features. Now I am very excited to get behind the wheel and drive this car. Let's get it out on the road. All right, driving the Evo VIII. Now I have reviewed other Lancer Evo models, but never a 7, 8, or 9. And that's a big deal because they had a distinct Mitsubishi Lancer version, kind of the base car from the other models that I've reviewed. It was redesigned in 10, and it was a different model before that. So it's cool to be able to finally get into one of these. The 7, 8, and 9, very related, very similar looking, drive similarly, but again, I've never reviewed one before for the channel. First thing, get it in this car, I am reminded that the Evo VIII is just such a wonderful sweet spot in the Evo world. I was never the biggest Evo X fan, and the earlier cars are awesome, but this one just feels better. It feels better built, it feels more solid, it feels like it steers and handles better, it feels like it even builds power a little bit better. And those were, you know, the car was refined and refined as it went on, and again, because this was based on a newer Lancer chassis, you had some improvements in this car versus the Evo VI that I recently reviewed that you didn't necessarily get in earlier Evo models. Just right off the bat, you can tell the clutch is just wonderful in this car. I really love the clutch. The feel of the clutch is just absolutely fantastic. It's perfectly weighted, perfectly smooth transition, just really well done. And the shifter is the same way, just wonderfully notchy, just like the perfect amount of weight and notchiness, and the throws are exactly the right length that you want them to be, maybe the littlest bit long, but it is just the perfect clutch shifter experience in general. It feels wonderful. It's also nice to know, just kind of cruising along here in sort of traffic, not going fast, it's nice to know this car is actually pretty comfortable and pretty reasonable in that situation. The ride is a little bit harsh, but not so harsh that you feel like beat up or kind of overly pushed. It feels pretty good. It feels nice and comfortable enough, let's say. There is a lot of pressure driving this car with 948 original miles. It's just terrifying. I drive a lot of really expensive cars, Ferraris, Lamborghinis, but the stuff that scares me the most is driving the museum piece stuff, the stuff that really, truly can't be replaced. Finding another Evo like this, not really gonna happen. Man, I just love the shifter clutch. It is so nice in this car. Now, I'm a big fan of the 4G63 powertrain. I've driven a lot of different cars over a lot of years, this turbo 4-cylinder, and I think it's a good engine. And in this car, it made really pretty decent power. Wow, it feels quick. I just love how eager this car is. Boy, it just changes directions wonderfully well. Feels very planted. The steering is not quite as precise or as communicative as maybe I was hoping for. Ultimately, this is a 20-plus-year-old car, and that was a little difficult, but the chassis feels great. It just feels very eager and very capable of rotating quickly and really delivering a pretty fun experience. But mostly, man, this car feels a lot faster than 0 to 60 time says. I guess it's just getting up into that turbo. It really feels quick. When you're at the high revs, this car really, really, really does feel pretty quick in a fun way. I mean, like an eager, exciting quickness where you get some sound and you start feeling the road more. And I mean, it really has that feel to it. Boy, the handling really is great. The steering, I do think, could use just the littlest bit of extra precision. It's just a little bit on center. It's a little bit vague. It just doesn't quite have the communicativeness that some of the other parts of this car honestly do. This is just a fun and exciting car, and it really is surprisingly rewarding, even in stock form. Of course, so many of these get modified and you can do so much to them, but I actually find the car to be surprisingly exciting stock. Overall, fun car. Just really kind of a fun car, like eager and peppy, good powertrain, good steering and handling, great shifter clutch. It's just a fun car. I get why these are so moddable and why they're so desired to be modded and why values have stayed pretty high. I recently drove a very similar WRX STI with basically the same low miles. I think this car is better. I think this car is just a little bit sharper, feels a little bit quicker. It just feels like it's a little bit more responsive, a little bit more eager, a little bit more athletic. And I really love the clutch shifter, which I definitely prefer the Subaru. Just a really fun, exciting car, this Evo VIII. And it really was a dream car for me as a kid. When it first came out, I was like 16, 17. I was so excited that Evo was finally coming to the States. And it really was. It lived up to the hype. Back then, it would have been an amazing car, and it still is pretty great. And so that's the Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution VIII. This is a really special car. It's fun, it's fast, it was the stuff of my childhood dreams, and you never find one this nice anymore. But you can find this one on Cars and Bids. Anyway, now it's time to give the Evo VIII a DougScore. And the DougScore is here, 54 out of 100, which puts the Evo VIII here against the competition. It ties the WRX STI, though the Evo edges it out slightly in the weekend categories as published acceleration times push the Evo just a bit higher into a 6 out of 10 compared to the STI's 5. Meanwhile, the STI gets a slight nod in value as it's a bit more affordable than an Evo with easier servicing availability. Regardless of which you choose, these are awesome cars, but my personal preference is the Evo, which always felt just a bit cooler and a little more forbidden JDM in a wonderful way.